Hello, and how are you from wherever you are watching this podcast? My name is Ayub Mwangi. I am a communication and media professional, and I would like to welcome you to this series of podcasts that we have titled Organizational Communication and Management. Now, today, I would like to talk about the issue of crisis communication. One thing that we have to agree with me is that no organization is immune to a crisis, that there is no organization that can say it cannot be hit by a crisis. A crisis can occur from within the organization or from outside the organization. This means that a crisis can take place because of the things that we do in the organization or the things that have nothing to do with us. Whenever a crisis occurs, it is imperative for the organization to always ensure that it responds immediately and in an open and transparent manner. So what causes a crisis? Now, one of the things that can cause a crisis is human error. Human beings are prone to error. So something can happen and that can lead our organization into a crisis. The other thing that can cause us a crisis is machine failure. Again, machines are likely to fail at any particular moment, for different reasons, maybe lack of maintenance, wear and tear, etc., etc. Crisis can also occur because of unethical or dishonest behavior in the organization. The other thing that can also cause us a crisis is an unresponsive culture. Now, this is a situation where even though we keep on reporting things that are happening within the organization that we feel might affect us one day, then we realize that our management is not responding, or the culture of the organization is such that it does not care. It is quite unresponsive. A crisis can also be caused by poor judgment or leadership failures. What are the leaders doing when it comes to what has been reported about our organization? Are they responding as they should, or are they not? Or are the leaders up to the task when it comes to responding to the issues that are being reported to them, or they just wish them away? A crisis may affect an organization in a number of ways. For instance, a research done in 2011 by Barson Mastera on the impact of a crisis on an organization found a number of things. One, it found out that an organization is likely to suffer a drop in its revenue. The earnings that an organization makes out of its sales of products or services are likely to drop because of a crisis. Number two, if the earnings have dropped and the organization may not meet some of its obligations, now the first people to suffer in this situation will be employees. So you find that there are some employees which you don't need, and therefore you lay them off, or you actually retrench them or declare redundancy because you no longer need them. The other thing that crisis can cause is loss of reputation. A crisis is likely to cause your organization loss of reputation. The way people see you, their trust, their faith in your product or services declines just because you are in a crisis. The other thing is that a crisis generally destabilizes the organization or the company or the business. Instead of concentrating on improving production, improving the working environment, you start focusing on other things that are not really critical for the advancement of the business, because now you are like firefighting. When you are firefighting, the concern here is how do we put out the fire that is facing us. It has been established that there can be two types of a crisis. One is a smoldering crisis, and two is an unexpected crisis. A smoldering crisis is a crisis that has been going on for a long time. If you have watched our other podcast on issues management, you might have realized that we said if an issue is not managed, it might become a crisis. And here we are saying that an issue can form part of a smoldering crisis, so that over time this issue will actually culminate into a crisis that will affect how we run our business. Or the other kind of a crisis is an unexpected crisis. You wake up one day, you find that you have a crisis in your hand and you don't know what to do with it, or you have to find a way on how to deal with this crisis. So it is the responsibility of managers within the organization and leaders as well to be able to know if there are any smoldering concerns that might lead the organization into a crisis in the future. If they know and they don't respond to them, then when these things become a crisis and they carry the blame for not having responded the way they should when that issue was reported to them. One thing that we need to know about a crisis is what is the level of threat. Now, who is responsible? Is it from within our organization or is it coming from outside the organization? We also need to know how will the crisis affect our business? What is the magnitude in which the crisis is likely to affect our business? Would it be too much? Would it be too low? Would it be moderate? These are things that we need to know so that we can respond appropriately as we deal with this particular crisis. We also want to say that a crisis can either be tangible or intangible. Now, a tangible crisis is a crisis that affects the business in terms of, it can destroy the physical things within a company. It can maybe affect life, it can cause injuries, it can destroy property, it can destroy records, it can destroy buildings, it can destroy vehicles. This is what we are calling a tangible crisis. On the other hand is what we call an intangible crisis, which is a crisis that basically affects the reputation of the organization. It affects how people see us, their faith in us, their trust in us. Do they want to continue doing business with us? This is the kind of a crisis that we are calling an intangible crisis. It's not something you can hold, but which has the potential to affect perceptions of stakeholders in our organization. A threat becomes a problem if it is, one, unexpected. Two, there is need for immediate attention. Number three, difficult decisions have to be made. The key to handle a crisis is to have a plan, and the plan is made prior to a crisis. Now, organizations, companies, and businesses must be in a position to put in place a comprehensive crisis communication plan so that whenever a crisis hits them, they will be able to respond accordingly. It is also important to put the interest of the stakeholders first. If it is about safety and it affects a product, then we need to withdraw that product as we address the concerns of the customer. The interests of the customer must be addressed first. We should also be in a position to communicate with stakeholders in a timely and efficient manner. Now, if we don't do this, then it means that our customers or our stakeholders will be believing what they are hearing from the different quarters. But for us, the most important thing is that we need to be open, we need to be honest, and we need also to communicate in a timely manner to all our stakeholders. In our communication, we must also ensure to use all the available communication channels. We must be able to use the conventional media, and we must also be able to use the social media, which today has become a very important tool of communication and cannot be ignored. Again, it is also important to ensure that our leadership is up to the task. Our leaders must rise to the occasion and communicate the values that our company stands for. If we stand for integrity, then we must also demonstrate integrity. The values which we espouse is what are being displayed during crisis communication. And again, the leader must also be in a position to demonstrate some level of emotional intelligence. He should be able to speak in such a way, whatever he says connects with what the stakeholders are going through. There are some people, when they communicate, instead of bringing people closer to the company, people actually, don't even feel sorry for the organization. And in this situation, we want to bring our customers close to us. We need to make our customers understand what we are going through. We need to make our customers know that maybe what has hit us was not of our own doing. And for that, we need to mobilize for customer support. One of the things that you'll notice about crises is that crises have the potential to attract regulators to your organization. When you are hit by a crisis, you will find that the organizations that regulate your sector will come in their droves and they start saying things. For instance, in the last few weeks, when we had the Shakahora mass deaths reporting, we did see various government organizations come up to start and claim things about a section of churches in Mombasa. You saw the Registrar of Societies, the Attorney General, the Communication Authority, numerous organizations start making claims about what your organization has not done right. So it is very important for us to guard the reputation of our organization by ensuring that we are prepared for a crisis, by having a plan, taking elaborate measures to ensure that whenever that crisis hits us, we will be able to deal with it. In our next podcast, we shall address the various strategies that organizations can use to deal with the crisis. Thank you very much for watching this podcast, and I would like to request you to subscribe to the podcast because this is the only place that we are going to know how we can run our organizations by mainstreaming communication within management.